You are listening to the Stand Out Now podcast with your host, Dave Mendonca. Check out each episode as top experts share their proven marketing, publicity, and sales tips to help you cut through the advertising noise so you can reach your ideal clients, get noticed, and connect with powerful influencers. The Stand Out Now podcast is brought to you by podcastinterviewexperts.com, helping entrepreneurs attract clients through business podcast guest appearances.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for listening. Our guest is a South African-born Food Network chef, author, and motivational speaker with a cooking school in Italy. She has also cooked for Hollywood types, such as film score composer Hans Zimmer and Zimmer Katzenberg. Melissa Mayo, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on, Dave. It's so exciting to be chatting to you.
Awesome. Great to have you here. All right, Melissa, right off the top, this is a question I ask all my guests. Okay, so Melissa, when you were a kid, what marketing or sales strategies, knowingly or unknowingly, did you use to get what you wanted?
As a kid and even as an adult, I have always figured that I was never walking alone. So if I put something in my mind and I painted that picture and I partnered with what I like to call my source, you can call it whatever it is, I believed that I had the power to attract whatever I wanted into my life. And I had this knowing, I've always had this knowing, and it has served me well.
Wow, so it's like an intuition?
It's almost like I feel like the best business partner you can have is your source. We all come from like this amazing source.
Got it.
And we're all connected to it at all times. And if I ever needed anything, I would go inside for the answers and paint these beautiful pictures of what I wanted to appear in my life. And I have only experienced them arriving right on time.
Wow.
So I've always just gone inside to create and market and figured it out from a quiet space.
Wow, so how far back are we going here when you started feeling this?
Just as a young kid, if I wanted to be in a play and get the lead, I would draw pictures of it and think about it and tell, my creator what I was going to plan, and it would just appear.
Wow.
I think I've always blindly trusted and known without any level of doubt. And I've just been blessed to attract all the things I've focused my attention on. Although I must be honest, I never, ever, ever think of things as impossible.
Okay.
And I never, ever doubt that they will appear. So there is a definite blind knowing I've had since a very young kid that I have the exact same ability to attract it as all the greats. So yeah, I don't know, since a young kid.
Wow. So growing up, did you come from a family that was very spiritual or?
My parents were kind of spiritual and traditional in a sense, but I was actually an identical twin at birth, stillborn, believe it or not, and my mother had had 8 miscarriages before I was born. So I kind of always felt like my twin was like my extra light, like an extra like angel traveling with me. And so maybe I don't know if I was speaking to my creator or more her. But yeah, I guess I always just felt connected to an angel walking with me. I know it sounds crazy, but it's my truth. And I did manifest a cooking school into Italy with it, so it obviously works.
We'll definitely get into that. So you've been very, I guess you're very clued into like visions. Like you have a photographic memory. I guess like your images are very vivid in your head. So when you have those images, like how do you work? Do you re-engineer? Like, okay, so I want a cooking school. So how do I get there? Let's start from having it and working back. Like, how does that work when you...
Totally.
Okay.
So when I had this in my mind that I was going to have it, I really saw it from the finish line. And I'd always said I was going to retire to Italy. So when I swim a lot in the ocean, open water swimming, and the pool, that's kind of where I meditate and where I connect and create my dreams. But I would picture it as if I was an old grandmother rolling out plum pie for my grandchildren, and I would see the house and how it would look and what the furniture would look like and the smells of the food and the pizza and the surroundings. And I would fill in all the details as if it had already happened and that life had just been the life I had already lived. So I legitimately would get very, very, very specific about fluffing out the canvas and paint it as if it had already happened years into the future.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. So, okay, so that's how you work in terms of visualizing and making those visions come to reality. Now, when you were growing up, just getting back to when you were younger, did you have like certain idea? Okay, you thought about the cooking school when you were younger, or did you have other like jobs or passions? Or
So as a young kid, I actually was a musical theater geek. I was Annie and Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, and I loved the stage and singing, writing music. Broadway was a dream. I had two parents that grew up the kids of Holocaust survivors, of scarcity mentality, the total antithesis of me. They were always afraid they wouldn't have enough, and they had a scarcity mentality, always worried about money. And so when it came time to actually choose a profession and I wanted to come to Hollywood and Broadway, I was given a choice of 3 occupations that would pay the bill. I could become a doctor, an accountant, or an attorney. So I actually have an MBA in finance and spent a number of years working, doing IPOs and feasibility studies for casinos and the hospitality industry, and actually worked at a desk 90-hour weeks. So I really put my dreams on hold. And then when I finally moved to the States, I re-engineered my career and my passion by finding what I love to do, which was cooking and be in the kitchen. And even though everybody thought I would starve and never make a cent and I should not quit my high-paying job, I followed my passion and turned it into a wonderful and successful business, just again by following what was my inner gut was telling me I was called to do. So, yeah.
for sure, and it's worked out. There's no doubt. So, a few questions here are very interesting to me. So, your parents give you the ultimatum about those 3 different jobs.
Mm-hmm.
At that moment in time, like you're having these dreams, Broadway, all like America, land of opportunity, all that sort of stuff. It's got to be like crushing when you heard that.
It was so crushing. And when I picked the degree, I actually picked the one that was the easiest to complete in the shortest amount of time and that I would be able to convert to the States. I'll actually be honest, for a long time in my 20s, I actually held my parents responsible for stealing my dream.
Yeah.
And then when I had my first opportunity to leave, I packed up everything, came to the US with $2,000, no papers. I didn't know a soul, and I was here to make my dream happen. But even in the time that I was studying, I just saw it as a means to an end, that I would finally get back on track. And at no point did I ever doubt that I would get on TV and do the things I wanted to do. I kind of just appeased them. They were my parents. I wanted to respect them. But I never, ever, ever quit on the dream. Never.
Yeah. Tell me about you're at your desk job. Were you like a daydreamer? Like you're doing stuff you don't want to do, but you're just thinking to yourself, okay, don't worry. This is just my story. Part of the story. It's part of the fabric, part of the tapestry. Like eventually
Exactly.
I'll get that. Yeah.
So I am a perfectionist and I'm very OCD. So if you give me a task, I will give you 150% of it. But while I was at work, I was focusing on work. I was actually very fortunate that they knew that I was not fitting into a financial mold. So at that time when I was working in South Africa, a whole bunch of casinos were being listed and there were huge feasibility studies for millions of dollars that they were putting into each of the projects. So they kind of already shifted me into the hospitality industry where I could kind of create hotels and themes and concepts to bring to market. So already then I was doing it in a more creative sense. I think I kind of just let them know they couldn't send me into like an insurance company or big corporate company. But always the dream was a means to an end. Everything I was learning was something I was going to apply going forward in my business. The business ideas I learned. Well, actually, one of the things I learned the most was everything you learn in college does not apply in the working world. So, for example, if you take the business degree I did, they teach you exactly the right amount of tax to pay and exactly how to do the books and exactly how to balance the debits and the credits. And then you get to the working world and you understand the client is only going to pay for the audit or the study if the numbers look the way that they look. So at that point, you become a lot more creative because you have to now match the client's needs with what they want as opposed to what the correct answer is. So it was kind of eye-opening for me. And on the flip side, I have a very talented daughter who's 15 and a half years old. She's an amazing musician, taught herself to sing and play guitar.
Wow.
And I'm one of the few parents out there who's told her if she doesn't want to go to college, she doesn't have to.
Wow.
She can follow her passion. So I kind of thank my parents for teaching me how to parent my own kid going forward in life.
Right. Your parents, you know what, like all parents, they just want the best for their kids. So in that moment in time, they thought, Melissa, we don't want you to struggle, right? So you get
and
that.
I also think both my parents' parents were orphans. So I actually don't know my family lineage going back because they were all left in Poland and Lithuania. So I think for them, college was something that I would be one of the first to go to college. So it's okay.
For sure.
I did it. I definitely know how to run a successful business as a result. So nothing is wasted. I had to have the parents that were the pessimists and that had a scarcity mentality so that I could become the child and the adult that is an eternal optimist and dreamer. So you get the parents that you need to in life. I believe that.
There's so many people in this world that don't have that attitude. I'm right there with you. If you're self-aware enough to notice your past experiences and how they could help you going forward, that's massive. And you have, because there's a lot of people who just, go through life and they don't really take stock. And you have, and you've recognized the value of those parents, their value, even that financial job, like how, you told them, listen, this is where I kind of want to go. And they put you on that path, dealing with the casinos and stuff like that. It all leverages each other, serves each other. And it's great. I'm glad that you saw that all as tools, really.
I will tell you now, I'm actually about to jump into book 4, and I have written 3 successful cookbooks. I'm going off to Italy in a week or so to write book 4. And book 4 is actually going to be a total deviation from the books I've written. I know as a chef, you would think it would be a cookbook. But I lost both parents in the last 8 years. And what I realized about them, my dad was in his late 70s. My mom was in her mid 70s. And both of them died at their desk, working their asses off in a job they hated, and they felt trapped. And I see in life so many people who think that others are the lucky ones and others are more blessed. And as a result, they're just literally stuck with their fate. There's absolutely nothing they can do. They've just resigned themselves to this is their life, and they will die with their music still in them. And my parents were 2 of those people who legitimately, when you get to the end of your life, you take stock. It's kind of a crazy thing. And both of them had so many regrets. And I've never had regrets. I always said to my mom, when I finally get up to the gates of heaven and God says to me, Melissa, is there anything you wanted to do that you didn't do? I will answer with a resounding hell no. I did everything I wanted to do. And so this book is actually something that I am drawn to writing because I feel like so many people do not really feel that they have the power within themselves to change their life and create the reality that they want. And it's kind of crazy. My publicist and my manager, everyone's like, go write a cookbook. I'm like, I don't want to write another cookbook. And so I'm heading off to Italy to write the book I want to write. Another almost 3rd chapter in my career progression from accounting to cooking to more spirituality. And it's coming from my heart. I think if it comes from that pure place, it will be well received. But I want to let people know they have a way out.
They do. There's no doubt about it. I want to hear your story. Okay, so this is you recognizing your power. You go to California. So $2,000 in your bank account. That's all Melissa has.
Yes.
How did she?
I caught the bus for a year. And then when I finally bought my first car, it was a 1980 Chevy Blazer stick that they were just going to donate. And it used to overheat. No one would even sit in the front seat of the car because smoke would come out.
Oh, my God. Seriously?
Seriously. And I swear the day I bought this $400 car, the whole car was $400. It was like you had given me the keys to a Ferrari.
Weren't you afraid? That sucker would just blow up?
I had been catching the bus and walking for a year. This was like the car of all cars. I had wheels. Do you know how hard it is to live in Los Angeles and not have transport? We don't have a public transport system. So I was so excited. It was like my dream car.
Amazing. So Okay, so when you got to California, you want to be this like chef personality. You want to just indulge in your skills around cooking and whatnot. Like, how did you get the word out? Like, what did you do? Did you audition for stuff?
No,
What'd you
actually,
do?
it came to me. So when I first came here, actually, the INS had something totally different in store for me. I thought I would come here and audition and go out, but I didn't have any papers. And I had no one to sponsor me, and I needed a job to get a roof over my head. So I actually went back to accounting for a very short period of time. And I was taking acting classes at night, and I then met my amazing husband. But then we got engaged shortly after that, and my daughter was a honeymoon baby. And so I took up some time to look after her because we had no family around, but I'd always cooked. In South Africa, I grew up with a family cooked meal every single night, mains, vegetable sides. My mom was a great cook. And so when I was here, I didn't have blood family, but we created this core of family around us, and I would make all the dinners and I would cook. And so when it came time to send my kid off to preschool, I was now faced with going back to this amazing corporate job where they were paying me well into the hundreds of thousands. And I thought, no, I just can't do it. So a friend of mine is the right-hand man to Hans Zimmer. And he's like, Melissa, we've got a bunch of composers who are tired of eating out every day. Won't you come into the kitchens and won't you start cooking? So I was so fortunate. I landed a gig going into Hans Zimmer's office and Jeffrey's office every day and making like lunch for 30, 40 composers. And I would leave the lunch there, go pick my kid up from preschool and come home. And I actually had 2 years to experiment because I'd get to the grocery store, pick up a few ingredients, go to the kitchen and just play. And so that was really the first time I stepped into the shoes of a chef. I knew I could cook. My mom was an amazing cook, but I did not go to culinary school. And then through that, obviously, I managed to get onto the Food Network show, and I had a cooking school, and I wrote books, and I started reaching a global audience. But I just jumped in with both feet to this opportunity and really just learned to cook. Wow. By playing. I know, it's crazy.
Wow. So incredible break in regards to Zimmer and Katzenberg and those guys. When it was happening, when the opportunity was there, what was going through your mind?
They are the nicest bunch of people, I swear. You think Oscar winners, they're super stuck up and industry people. I would serve lunch and we would joke around the table, but these guys would load the dishes into the dishwasher, and they were just a really nice group of people to work with. It was so great because every day I would make something, I would know what their feedback was. It was like cooking for a test audience of 40. There's no better way to hone your skills than like have 40 people telling you that what works. So I just looked at it as a great opportunity. They didn't treat me as any different. I was one of the team. Another thing that happened, which was quite an amazing breakthrough, is that they have this massive studio where they rent space to all these amazing, incredible artists. But most of them were ordering in every day and eating inside their recording studios. So what had happened was, I'm South African. We were raised on sitting at a table very much like the Italians. Is I created this lunch community where all these people would come out of their offices and sit down at a massive, long table to eat lunch. And the cross-pollination of projects that actually happened around the table was incredible, because for the first time during lunch, somebody would say, oh, I'm working on Madagascar and I need an editor. And oh, we're doing the Da Vinci Code and I'm short-staffed. Have you got any time? Oh, yeah, I'm free on that. And it actually showed you how communities and relationships are really built around food. And that is something I'm so passionate about in my own life. We sit down as a family for dinner every single night at the table. My daughter would tell me that if she had to poll her friends in her class, she'd probably be one of only 2 kids that eat dinner as a family every night. And my husband's super, super busy. He works like a maniac. But dinner time is sacred. We sit down, we catch up, we eat healthy food. I can now hear about what she's struggling with at school. And there is always this relationship that the Italians understand, the South Africans understand, and that I've tried to create in America, in my home, in that a dinner time or meal time is about more than just the food that you're eating. It's about the people you're eating it with and the conversations that can happen over and around food. So what I created, which was so amazing to see, was from this corporate world, my lunches actually infused a sense of community and almost cemented a relationship from each composer working independently on their own project to a group mentality, a oneness where everyone was cross-collaborating and there was so much cross-pollination. It was astounding to see how much can happen if you actually break for meals.
So why do you think that is? What is it about food coming together, like bringing people together, that sparks those collaborations and those conversations?
I think it goes back to the basic premise that, the cheapest things that are available to us, if you look at God's hierarchy of what he really wants us to have, the most important is air, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's free. And then you've got your water. It's not necessarily free, but it's easily attainable. You turn on a tap, you got water. And then you've got your basics like food and shelter, basic shelter and clothing, right?
Yep.
These are all the basic needs we need. And then you get to like the luxury vacations and the yachts and the fancy cars and the jewelry and the designer handbags and shoes. So all the food is a basic, essential, core value that we need. And the nourishment that comes from food, I mean, people inhaling food at their desks or working over a screen are not even tasting the food. And, I just feel like each ingredient as a chef, the taste of a tomato versus the taste of a kiwi fruit, they're all miraculous in their variety. And I don't know what it is. I think it's just a sharing of God's gifts, all the primal thing of eating and hunting and gathering. I mean, if you go back years, we have food so easily accessible to us as drive-through food. But if you think about time during the caveman time, their whole day was spent finding the bull, catching the bull, shooting the bull, skinning the bull, cooking. Like their whole day was centered around making that one meal, Mm-hmm. It goes to our core needs. And I also think that when you're enjoying it with people, that sense of community is able to be created because we're just tackling really our core needs without all the superfluous stuff that you don't need. Some of the best meals I can tell you that I've had have been nothing more than a simple piece of bread with a great olive oil, a good glass of wine, and the company has been spectacular. But it hasn't been your Michelin star meals. It's been that the company has been good. So I don't know. We don't look into each other's eyes enough and we don't connect with humans enough. I even see that now with my teenage daughter in that everyone converses over like the telephone and texting and Skyping. It's the sitting down and looking at people in their eyes and seeing them that I think brings you together. You feel like you're seen and heard when you're eating in person.
It's interesting. There's no doubt technology has definitely, I guess, torpedoed, the daily dinner time with family, like everyone being around the table, paying attention to each other. Because nowadays you'll have families, each kid has an iPad, mom and dad have a smartphone, and they're all staring at their devices while having dinner. So, and I wouldn't be surprised, Melissa, if they start texting each other at the table. You know what I mean? Like the brother and sister, hey, Tom, look at dad's hair today. It's weird. You know what I mean?
It's really true. We have a no technology policy at the table. But you know what I found kind of strange? So I've renovated and remodeled 2 homes in my life. We did one in LA and I did one in Italy. And when I was working on the one in LA, I figured, okay, the best way to keep these guys working on a tight schedule is to serve them lunch every day. And I show kind of my love for people by cooking for them. I put my love into the food and I serve it to them. And these guys lapped it up. They ate it. They were so happy every day to have a home-cooked meal on the job site. Then you take the project in Italy where I went and did the same thing. I offered to make the guys lunch. And they were having none of it. They wanted to go home to their family for lunch and see their family and see their kids and eat with their kids. It's something sacred that the Europeans cherish. They won't forgo that family time. And they're happy and they live long and prosperous lives. And a lot of the Italians I know, never mind not even having social media, some of them don't even have an email address. Now put that in your brain. They don't even have an email.
Yeah, it's really incredible that...
and they're happy. I have 2 women who live on the street where my home is in Italy. They're well into their 90s. The one gets on a stepladder and clips a hedge that I swear is the work a healthy, fit 20, 30-year-old would do. And she's upright in her 90s clipping a hedge, and the other one tends to a garden and spends her day taking the fruits of all of her garden and delivering it to her neighbors. You'll get like a bag of her tomatoes and her fruits and her vegetables. And we live in a country where in order to eat healthy, you have to be in a very high income bracket. It's super easy to afford to feed your family a Happy Meal.
Yep.
But if you really want to feed your family fruits and vegetables, you have to be making a lot of money. We live in a country where healthy food is unaffordable, and it's tragic.
The system's messed up. There's no doubt about it.
It's tragic.
Yeah, because you're talking about those elderly women in Italy, like in the farming communities of like Italy and like Portugal or any of those Southern European countries. Definitely, I'm assuming that the vegetables, like the farmers could just access them organically, obviously, and just eat them. Whereas everybody else, there's a premium. Like in North America, like you're right, organic food is pricey, right?
But even all fruits and vegetables, I have a friend, Fran Drescher. She heads up Cancer Schmancer, and she works with a lot of these these charities who are trying to bring healthy foods into the schools and the projects. And you know that the American school system has classified like the tomato sauce on the pizza they give the kid as a fruit serving, and the ketchup that they get with their macaroni and cheese as fruit because it's tomatoes. And, we were talking about how community gardens and things, there should be space made for it where people can access fruits and vegetables that are grown locally. And that's why dinner time is so important too, because you're cooking with natural fruits and vegetables and ingredients from the ground, and you're sharing that with your family, and it's creating a whole holistic, healthy individual. I'm so passionate about people getting back into the kitchen, and I'm so passionate about moms and dads bringing their kids into the kitchen with them to cook with them, because if we can teach our young generation how to cook using basic ingredients and not adding too much to it, we can create healthy eaters going forward. It's something we have to address because kids are suffering with so much obesity and heart attack. It's tragic. And Europe does not have any of these health issues that we have. They really don't.
Exactly. It's a shame this stuff's happening, and hopefully people figure it out. Hey, the kids are our future, and, we need to have healthy families.
We need to bring dinner time back to the American population. We need to have families sitting down for dinner. As busy as everyone is, everyone's got 30 minutes to sit down for dinner. It's not negotiable. That's what I think.
Exactly. Well said. Now, Melissa, I definitely want to go back to your story arc about how you came to the States and all that sort of thing. But before I do, tomatoes are vegetables. They're not fruit. Are they fruit? Are they fruit or vegetables? Okay, I get it. They have seeds. Is that why people think it's fruit?
I think so. I think it's got a seed, and it's also the same thing with avocado. If it has a pit, it doesn't matter what it is. I adore them. I love tomatoes.
Well said. Okay, now let's get back to your journey. So where we left off, you made some food for Katzenberg and his buddies and whatnot. Take me to how you got to the Food Network and all those exciting opportunities.
So they reached out to me and said, they were doing this new show, Private Chefs of Beverly Hills, and would I be interested in doing it? And it was a super fun gig. It really, really was. I had a great time on the show. I will tell you, though, that what happens in editing, a shot can be a little different, but I had an absolutely great time doing the show. It was incredible. And actually, at the moment, I have a show that's actually being pitched to 4 networks, which we're in the process of getting onto one of them. So I enjoyed that time. It was a fabulous opportunity, and I loved it. And I realized then that I could reach people all over the world. And I then decided that as much as I was enjoying cooking for the studio, I wanted to start reaching a global audience. So I opened a cooking school in my home, and I started photographing. I picked up a camera. All the pictures on my website I've learned to take from 10 years of photographing. I started creating 2-minute cooking videos, and I legitimately embraced the love of food and shared it with a global audience through my website and my social media platforms, and managed to publish 3 amazing cookbooks and build a wonderful community and following that I was able to create content for every single day. And every single day I'm creating content for them. And it was so rewarding to have the feedback, because with TV, you are on TV, but you're not able to really connect with your audience. Through my website and my social media platforms, I now know who I'm affecting, who I'm helping, and I feel like the conversation has a forward and back. There's a connection that I'm now able to tie into and feel some level of reward. So that was amazing. And then, they wanted more classes. So Italy became a place to put on the map because a lot of my audience are in the Southern Hemisphere, in South Africa and Australia and New Zealand. So Europe became like the midway point, and I'm now able to share my love of food and cooking with them during the summer times.
That's amazing. So when you're creating content, do you just come up with ideas, or are you asking your audience, hey, what are you guys interested in?
I do both. So when I cook, I generally will go to the market on a one day, pick up a lot of ingredients, come home and create. And as I create, I'll write the recipe down, take some pictures, and that becomes my recipe content. But when it comes to content that they want to see more of and create, I actually am very lucky to have an amazing A-team who always respond back to me. I have never had to hire anyone to work for me because they are my team, and I often will pose to them, what would you like to see more of? What would you like me to share with you? What can I create more of for you? They also will send me a lot of DMs and messages and emails telling me how things have affected and changed them and how I'm helping them. And driven by their continuous feedback, I am continuously creating content of value. My husband is not on social media at any point in time. He has never had them, but he's probably the smartest man I know. And he gave me a piece of advice that was probably the most valuable piece of advice anyone has ever given me. He said, Melissa, if you create quality content, people will come back and they will find your site. And I will honestly say that my website has no pop-ups asking you to subscribe, but over the years, I've built a subscriber list of over 200,000 people.
Wow.
They know my recipes work and they come back for them. And the best part is they actually pay me the height of a compliment. And when I share something on Facebook, they will share the recipes hundreds and hundreds of times on other platforms. So if a recipe doesn't work and it doesn't taste good, it doesn't go up. I don't just put content up for the sake of content. And a lot of people will say, what are your tricks? What advice could you give anyone, starting out and creating a social media presence? I would say quality content first. Put up quality content and your audience will find you. And if you continue creating quality content, they will stick with you. Another thing that I have been very, very, very adamant about is I've never farmed out any of my social media. I answer everyone's messages. I feel if someone takes the time to write me, I will take the time to respond to them. And as a result, I've built up a community and a tribe of foot soldiers that are loyal to me. And I know who they are. I know who's struggling. I know who's celebrating something. They share with me openly. And I also share myself. I've also been vulnerable a lot through, when I buried both parents, I was very vulnerable and I shared my grief and what I was going through and authentic. I don't profess to be perfect to them. I'm just real. And so I would say anyone who's wanting to start out and create a brand, authenticity is key, community building is key, and quality content is key. There's no quick tricks. There's no way to shortcut it. Just create value for your customer. And every time you're going to do something, ask yourself, how am I helping them? It's not so much about how you can help yourself, but can you be of value to your customer? Can you teach something that they need or they want to learn? And so, yes, I go back to my community often and ask them to direct the focus of what they would like to see me doing more of.
Exactly. That's the way you should do it. So in regards to quality content, so I was going to ask you, what does that mean to you? You just described it. You're being of service. You're trying to figure out how you can be valuable to somebody. So when you're figuring out quality content, do you sit down and you look at your fan base and you're like, oh, they're struggling with this. They're telling me this. So let's generate content for that. Is that how it works?
It is. And a lot of it also just happens because it's something that I'm driven to write. Let's say, for example, I'm struggling with something or I've just had a breakthrough or something that I've grappled with. I will write about it in an authentic way and try and share it with them in a way showing them what had happened and the lessons I learned and how now if they're facing this struggle, they can use these tools to overcome it. So I share a lot with them, not just all the pretty, but some of the falls and some of the struggles and some of the hiccups and battles as well.
Mm-hmm. So let's just recap here in regards.
Because, there's so much out there. There's so many people you could follow. There's so much stuff. And yeah, a beautiful picture of a salad is great, or a beautiful picture of someone in a bikini is great. And you can be following it, but why are my audience following me? Why are they reading my post? And the fact that they are is such a height of a compliment to me that I want to leave them with something that can help them, something that can help them realize their dreams, their goals, become a better person, overcome their struggles. But my goal is to be of service to them, not the other way around.
Got it. So basically, you're creating consistent, valuable content. The way that you relate to these people is very authentic. You show vulnerability. So those are the things I'm noticing about how you've cultivated your brand. Like you're out there. So like you're doing daily stuff, right?
Yes. And another thing also is I'm not copycatting, which I think is a super, super important thing. When I first started out, I had a lot of people tell me, there are so many chefs out there. There's so many this out there. There's so many that out there. But the truth is, as human beings, there's only one Melissa. There's only one Dave. Yeah. So in my brand, you will see I embrace the fact I'm Jewish. I share my holidays and Shabbat and keeping the Sabbath. I embrace the fact that I'm proudly South African. I was born there and it's in my heritage. I speak a lot about Italy and my passion and living out my days there. I'm able to, at 45, still proudly rock a six-pack. So you'll find bikini shots of me because I'm still proud that at 45 I can do that. Mm-hmm. And so my brand is I'm a mom with a very talented daughter, so sometimes she'll be on there. So I'm doing me. And I think the most important thing people need to do is realize that if they're going to scroll through other people's feeds and look what that one's doing and try emulate it and try copy it, they're just going to come off as a second-rate copy of the original. For people to be obsessed, they need to find out who they are, what makes them excited, what interests them, and they need to do that. And when they're doing what they love and they're coming from a place of authentic passion, their audience will find them. And on that note, I have a Jewish audience. A lot of them are religious. They cover their heads. They cover their arms. They're very conservative in the way they dress. They like my recipes. And so they're prepared to put up with the fact that I look half naked every second shot when I'm in a bikini. Right. So I haven't tailored myself for them. They're prepared to say my recipes and my spirituality is good enough that they're prepared to overlook the fact that I'm not very modestly dressed. And likewise, I encourage people to take a day off no matter what day it is. I know the Catholics in Italy take Sunday off. Nothing works. The Jews take Saturday off. But I always encourage my audience to take a day off and unplug and recenter. So I'm not changing who I am. I'm just using myself to give them lessons to live their best life. And I think that's so important. There is only one of every one person, and we all have such a unique voice. And I think it's so important to embrace your uniqueness, your unique voice, your unique brand. And I think that's what comes off as authentic and not copycat-like.
Mm-hmm. You know what, Melissa? It definitely sounds like you've found your place in this world. You've had a lot of trials and tribulations. You've followed your passion. You've had some bumps, but it's really interesting just hearing you come to these realizations.
Well, I have to tell you, every single bump I've had in the road and every single person who's told me no, I thank them. If I have to tell you how many people laughed at me when I told them I was going to buy a house and open a cooking school in Italy, and everyone has said it was impossible or no, I thank them because they just made me want to do it more. And every single struggle that I've ever had, or every single hiccup, or everything that did not work out right, those are the parts of my life arc that I have learned the most. It's not from getting it right the first time that I have become successful. It's from falling, wounding myself, and then picking myself up, brushing myself up and off and saying, let's get going, let's move forward. It is actually the falls that I have learned the most from, not the peaks.
That's the spirit, Melissa. It's inspiring. And for all you out there, you could definitely get to where you want to be. You just got to be hungry enough. You got to learn from your bumps and just keep going. So that's what you've done, Melissa. So Melissa, where can people find out more about you and all your awesome stuff? You're saying that you have a book on the way. You have a show pitch out there. There's a lot of stuff happening with you.
Yeah, so they can check out my website, which is melissamayo.com. I've got a bunch of books on there and my content, a lot of blogs about health and fitness and travel, about 350 free amazing recipes and meal plans. And then I am the Melissa Mayo on Instagram and Chef Melissa Mayo on Facebook. But come on over, say hi, tell me who you are, ask your questions, and if you have anything special you want me to address, let me know. And then if you would love to cook with me, well, then come out in the summer, in June, July, and August, to Tuscany and come cook with me under a beautiful Tuscan sun in a field of sunflowers.
Awesome. Melissa, thank you for being on the show.
Dave, thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun. Really, I appreciate you sharing my story with your audience. And my message to them would be, if you believe it, you will see it. So whatever you want in this life, you can create. Just have faith in yourself and just keep dreaming.
Awesome. Everybody check out Melissa's stuff out there. Thank you for listening and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Stand Out Now podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes and rate and review it as well. You can find out more about our program at thestandoutnowpodcast.com. Thanks again and enjoy your week.